what's going on?
Yo.
Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast?
Yeah.
YouTube channel?
Yeah, right.
Video?
YouTube channel in this way.
There it is. Today is actually a really exciting episode, and it's going to be furthering my agenda to prove to you that Chicago is the center of the world
Hey.
and the most important U.S. city.
We really are.
Listen,
I mean, 4 years in, we still.
these are just facts.
Yeah, we still going. Now we just layering it
No,
on
I'm
now.
just showing off.
Yeah, we just showing out now.
I don't need to prove anything further.
Yeah, right. Y'all have a blessed episode then.
But today we're going to talk about the history of piano in Chicago. Piano manufacturing, to be specific, not necessarily playing. That's a different episode. Piano manufacturing and small instruments.
Okay. And we downtown.
We're
if you
downtown.
Can't really tell.
Because
but
it started at a time that was like 1884. So like we're a fairly newer city. Everything is downtown.
1884?
1884.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We
Early on. Everything is happening downtown.
Yeah.
It's a fairly smaller city. Well, not really.
Yeah.
Somewhat smaller.
I mean,
city.
we rising at this
Right.
point.
We're growing.
Yeah.
If you remember from the episode about transit, and if you remember the episode about the railway,
Yeah.
you'll know that this is a big time for Chicago.
Yeah.
We are quickly becoming the center. We are still the West, but we're quickly becoming the center. So keep that little nugget in the back of your mind
Nougat.
as we're telling today's story.
Yeah.
We're currently walking towards Adams and Wabash,
Yep.
which is really where our story kind of crescendos, if you may.
Crescendo. That's
Get it?
Hey, that's a big scramble word.
Because piano,
Yeah,
crescendo.
yeah. Okay, look at you.
Well,
See?
some of you might not know, but I played
I
piano
definitely
for
did.
16 years.
Okay, I about to say I didn't know what crescendo mean. I thought I knew what it
It's
meant
like
in
the
context.
loudest,
Yeah.
it's like loud,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But slowly getting louder.
Yeah.
Crescendoing.
Boy, it is noisy down here
It is noisy.
in the financial district.
But yes, we are walking towards Adams and Wabash, which is really where our story kind of grows. And really, Chicago, at this point, by the time we get there, Chicago is the center.
Yeah.
But we start off in 1884, and there's one or two manufacturers making one or two pianos. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay.
The U.S. is slowly also starting to make pianos, but keep in mind, pianos have been around for like forever.
Yeah.
Super popular during the Edwardian era, super popular during the Victorian era. They've been around since, I don't know,
Yeah.
people started having slaves to build shit for them. No, for real.
I know.
String instruments are super old.
Yeah.
I mean, when we went to
We were in not Vienna, but
Florence,
Florence,
we saw the
Florence,
first,
yeah.
the first piano that was ever made.
yeah, which was
And-
crazy.
Right. So very old instrument. So
Yeah.
we weren't like inventing anything new just yet.
Yep.
We will, but not just yet. The West, what we think of the West right now, like these European countries, especially German countries or Germanic countries that were already producing pianos, kind of had like an uppity feel.
Right.
They thought they were like the ones that could do it.
Okay.
But come Chicago,
Let's-
and they're like, we can actually make pianos. So they started producing these, a couple companies started making them. No one trusted that Chicago could do it. All right, so we are at Adams and Wabash between State. We're standing up behind us is called the L Junction is what it's called. I'm gonna insert an image of what this looked like at the time that I'm talking about. But in 1887, here in Chicago, we had W.W. Kimball Co., which was the first company in Chicago to produce, or actually, I'm sorry, the first company in the US
Okay.
to produce pianos for mass distribution. So up until this point, we had piano producers, but they would literally make like one or two pianos a month,
Right.
maybe.
How long does it take to make a piano? Long. So half a month at least.
I mean, at the time in 1887, probably
Yeah,
a long time.
Probably a long ass time.
Because mind you, you're like, and they started making like artistic pianos. So
Right.
pianos that were very, very decorated, and the woodwork was really beautiful and stuff like that. So they eventually became the largest distributor of pianos in the world.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wait, are they still around? I don't want to jump
they're
to the
no
end.
longer
Okay, all right,
around.
yeah.
I'll tell you about where they end up, but they're
Okay.
no longer around. Of course, we then had an insane boom into like after the World's Fair, once the World's Fair came around in 1893, Chicago presented some pianos
Yeah.
at the exposition.
Mm.
And that was when people were like, I guess maybe, like they still weren't trusting that Chicago, a Western city, is making pianos. Like,
So they didn't believe that we could make a good piano.
right, they didn't believe that we could make like a Yamaha. You know what I mean? Like they didn't think we could
Come
bring
on now.
whip them out like that.
Ah, that's,
So-
that's what she said. We had to let them know, put it on the table. You feel me?
So, you know, there was specifically this one manufacturer that actually sent out a letter to every single piano distributor in the country
Yeah.
that would distribute pianos that he made Chicago pianos, and he was like, "Please, let me just send you a sample of
That's
my
crazy.
piano. I just want you to see it." Everyone kept saying no, saying no. Eventually, this guy in Kansas City was like, "You know what? Just stop emailing me." Oh no, not emailing.
Email.
Stop mailing me.
Stop
stupid-
emailing. Pony mail.
Right. Stop emailing me. Just send me a sample of your piano.
Yeah.
And just send me an example of your piano, whatever. I'll take a look at it. So he sent him a sample of the piano, and he loved it so much that the next week he was like, I need 2 more, but make sure they're of the same quality.
Okay. So okay.
So he sent out his piano. So slowly,
Okay.
now we're starting to
You
get.
needed 2 more.
He wanted 2 more. He's like, send me 2 more. It's a piano store. It's a
Yeah.
music shop.
Okay. Okay. So
he's
they
a
were pre-built.
distributor.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
distributor.
I was about to say, damn, I thought it took 1 or 2 months. Yeah, 1 or 2.
No,
yeah.
no. At this point, we're kind of like ramping up the
Yeah, yeah.
production
Yeah, yeah,
process. Mind you, Chicago now has a railway system. We have
Mm.
30 plus rail tracks that are going in different parts of the country. There's rail cars that are traveling that can carry things like pianos. And so by 1906, we now have 40 different plants producing pianos.
40
in
different
Chicago.
plants?
Yes,
Wow. Right around when?
1906.
So 1906, and then oh man.
So,
Oh.
Mind you, 1887,
Yeah.
we had produced 1 to 2 pianos. 1906, we were making 225,000 pianos.
So 19 years, almost. Yeah.
In 25 years, we produced
20, yeah,
60% of the U.S.'s pianos out of
Wow.
Chicago.
60%.
Yes.
There's another thing that we did a big deal of.
And the reason we're standing right here is because these 40 companies, just like how they did Motor Row, they all wanted to be in the same spot, just how they all did, they wanted to be in the same building. This became Piano Row.
Oh.
So the picture
Piano Row.
the picture that we inserted is the view of this from the L junction, looking down Adams and Wabash, and specifically down Wabash to show you what this looked like. So let's walk down Wabash, see what some of these buildings. Most of them aren't here anymore.
Right.
Most of the plants were torn down, but there's some ghost signs. We're gonna walk and see if we can see any, if we can find any, what we can look at, and maybe towards the end of the episode we'll go see a Chicago-made piano. Let's get it.
Let's get it.
All right, so Lyon, would you say lion or Lyon?
Lion.
Lion and
Yeah,
Healy
yeah.
was one of the largest distributors of musical instruments, and they were based at 207. It was actually the store right behind us, 207.
It's this right here, which is now a parking garage.
Garage. I'm telling you, most of these places don't exist anymore. We'll insert an image of what it looked like at the time so you can kind of see what it is. And they eventually started making small instruments, and they became the largest, they self-proclaimed as the largest musical house in the world. So they
That's a boy. I mean, I guess in the world at that time,
yeah.
maybe.
This is like
you know.
1907,
Yeah,
1906, 1907.
Maybe that's wild.
I do want to tell you where they ended up being, because they started out being the leader of concert harps. That's what they started making. They never actually manufactured pianos. They made a lot of smaller instruments, but they carried a lot of Chicago-based pianos. And unfortunately, like many others we're going to learn about today, they stopped existing during the Great Depression. Let's keep walking and see what else we can find. Let's go.
Let's go.
All right, so we walked towards the end of Adams and Wabash, or the end of like where Piano Row would have happened.
Yep.
And the building behind us is called Kimball Hall, or was Kimball Hall. It's now owned by DePaul. You can kind of see the little ghost sign.
That's the only ghost
there.
sign that we can see.
Yeah, which I want to assume that this was occupied by W.W. Kimball, which was the largest manufacturer in the world at some point.
Yeah.
Across the street was Cable Piano Company, which was another super large manufacturer.
Yeah.
And so if you look from this way north,
Yeah, that's north.
yep, All of those buildings, almost all of them, were occupied by piano manufacturers or
crazy.
piano sellers.
It-
So it
and
was
it's right down from Jewelers Row.
right down from Jewelers Row.
Yeah.
And so it was just such a cool space. And some of the things that made Chicago so important for piano manufacturing, one, we had lumber.
Yeah.
Two, we had the railway.
Mm.
We also, I'm not even joking, this is in a 1910 article by the Chicago Tribune. They said the reason Chicago eventually, because they recap how like no one took us seriously for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the reason that they did was because Chicagoans had an ego. I'm not even joking.
Ain't nothing changed.
I also have a very specific quote. I wanted to read it because
that's wild because nothing has
Isn't
changed.
that wild?
We still had that ego, that same ego.
Listen.
If anything, it's probably stronger now.
probably worse.
Yeah, probably definitely worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for 100% worse.
Yeah. That train going by is adding to the vibe
Yeah.
of us being in the city.
Yeah.
And mind you, this is probably what it would have sounded at the time. These
Yeah.
train tracks
Probably
existed.
way worse.
Yeah, right. They probably weren't as
Right.
quiet as they are now.
Yeah.
Quiet. But in 1907, the Chicago Great Central Market magazine had an article in it by George B. Armstrong, who was also a very important man. We'll talk about him in a different episode. He said, Chicago enjoys the distinction of having the greatest individual piano producers in the world.
Man, see, look, y'all better put some respect on our name
You know?
for the 1000th episode.
Like I said, Chicago was also super famous for making other instruments. 90% of the organs sold in the United States were made in Chicago.
Sound like a black market to me.
Listen, I do want to kind of like put a bow on this piece by talking about where are some of these companies now.
Okay.
So you had Bent Crown Company, which was a super luxury manufacturer of pianos. Their pianos were made by a company called George P. Bent,
Okay.
and he made the Crown piano, and from its name you can assume that it was like super luxury piano.
Okay.
In 1929, unfortunately they stopped producing because of the Great Depression, and they thought they would come back, but they never did. They sold and distributed to Sears Roebuck,
Oh, again.
and that was what kind of like kept them going into the 40s.
Sears had this on lock.
Yeah. And then Montgomery Ward also distributed their stuff for a while. And one of the reasons why things blew up is because you had companies like Sears and Montgomery Ward that were selling pianos. You could buy a piano through a catalog.
Yeah. I mean, which
was
is
wild.
beautiful. Which is beautiful.
You had Bush and Gertz, which was also one of the largest manufacturers. Their building was known as the Bush
Is that a
Music.
piano?
That'd be wild.
Bro, that's crazy if
So
that's
random.
a piano. I thought it was your phone, but that, y'all, I
No,
know y'all
it's
probably
not.
can't hear that. That's crazy. Okay, all right, sorry. Continue.
And W.W. Kimball Company, which I assume was in this building right behind us, they sold pianos until they couldn't anymore, which was about 1959, and then they were discontinued in 1996. So they were sold to
Oh,
another
that's kinda
company and renamed, and then they discontinued in 96.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah, and a lot of it, you know, the Great Depression played a huge role in breaking down a lot of these companies, but it was also because it wasn't trendy anymore.
Yeah, right.
Piano had a huge trend in the 20s.
That's
late
crazy.
20th century, like into the 20s in the US, it was very, very trendy to have a piano. Middle class people had pianos, and I found a cool note, unrelated, but also because I like to throw shade at New York. Chicago was known for producing very expensive pianos, and if you wanted a cheap piano that wasn't going to last, you went to New York. And the Tribune said that was a fact. Like, you can count on New York for giving you a cheap piano if you're poor.
God, dog, that's Tribune was reckless back in the day. They
Reckless.
still kind of reckless, but
Reckless. But now I want to kind of try and see if we can find a Chicago piano. There's one place that has one. I don't know if it's on their floor. I saw it's in their inventory, so we're gonna go and see if we can find it. But if we don't, thank you so much for watching. Leave a little piano emoji,
Or a key.
or a key. Low bass clef, treble clef moment.
You know.
And I hope you like this. I hope you have more ammunition to go to people and tell them that your city is the best city in the world.
In the world, you hear me?
And if we don't see you in 3 seconds with the piano, we'll see you next week.
Peace. Maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.